All right, class, let us explore post-classical Hinduism, the theology of the Puranas. So far in the Hinduism unit, we have discussed the teachings and practices outlined in what are called classical Hindu texts, such as the Vedas, the Upanishads, and we recently ended with the Bhagavad Gita. And in our survey of these texts, we have discovered that Hindu tradition is defined by various different theologies and practices. So, for example, in the Vedas, we had a kind of like polytheistic worldview. And then in the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, we had like a monotheistic worldview. And whereas, fire sacrifice was big in the Vedas, we find in the Upanishads that meditation is big, and then we get to the four yogas of the Bhagavad Gita. So again, there's a lot of different theologies and practices in classical Hinduism. And as we move on to what is called the post-classical period, we will find that Hindu beliefs and rituals will be just as complicated and diverse as in the classical period. Indeed, diversity, variation, these are the very things that define the Hindu tradition. Now, within the post-classical period, perhaps the most influential collection of Hindu sacred texts would be the Puranas. And what are the Puranas? The Puranas refer to a collection of Hindu teachings composed during the post-classical period of Hinduism, roughly from 200 CE to 800 CE. And the Puranas contain myths and legends of post-classical deities, as well as the spiritual teachings of gurus of this post-classical period. And what we find, and this is very interesting, what we find in the post-classical period is that major Vedic deities like Indra, Agni, and Varuna become less popular during the post-classical period. And ultimately, these Vedic deities will be eclipsed by deities who either held minor roles in the Vedas or don't appear in the Vedas at all. So it is this new generation of deities who are actually most popular in Hinduism today. Indeed, Indra, Agni, and Varuna really are not worshipped anymore in Hindu society. So of the deities in the Puranas, of this new generation of gods, six are especially popular. So let's review them. So Vishnu, who of course we talked about in the Bhagavad Gita, is probably the most popular deity in the Puranas because he appears the most in this collection of texts. And he's famous for manifesting into various avatars or earthly incarnations or manifestations to intervene in human affairs. Now, of course, we were introduced to one of these avatars, which would be Krishna, but he has many other avatars, including Rama, who is the famous kind of heroic figure in the famous Hindu text, the Ramayana. And there is also the much-loved Lakshmi who appears in the Puranas. She is the goddess of wealth and prosperity, who is the wife or consort of the god Vishnu. The god Shiva is another popular deity in the Puranas. And Shiva is a rather paradoxical god because he's known for both meditation and procreation. That is, on the one hand, he's seen as almost like a patron saint of meditation. He's an ascetic who renounces sex and gets into these deep trances and meditation. But then again, he's also known for his great procreative and virile kind of activities. So again, he's a bit of a paradox, both known as an ascetic and one who is procreative at the same time. And folks have probably seen the depiction of Shiva as Nataranjala, or the Lord of the Dance. And in this pose, he is the deity who keeps the cosmos in motion from creation to destruction. And Shiva has two female consorts, Kali and Parvati. Kali is depicted here as this kind of terrifying goddess. And here she is vanquishing the demon Raktabija. And Kali devotees pray to her for protection, really paying homage to her skills as an aggressive warrior, as a protector. And here is the maternal goddess Parvati, nursing the infant son of Shiva, a popular god known as Ganesha, right? The elephant-headed deity known as the remover of obstacles. Another deity of the Puranas is Brahma, who is the god of knowledge and learning. And as you can see, Brahma is depicted with 4 heads, each head representing one of the 4 books within the Vedic corpus. Sometimes Brahma is also depicted with 3 heads because the 4th head is out of view. It's behind us or behind him. And we have Brahma's consort, Saraswati, the goddess of music, literature, and culture. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves at this point, hold on a sec. What's the deal? What's going on? Is Hinduism polytheistic? Is it monotheistic? Or is it other? That is, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita seem to propose a monotheistic theology. Brahman is supreme God. Vishnu is the supreme God. But now the Puranas seem to propose a polytheistic theology. We have the existence of many kind of gods and goddesses, just like in the Vedas. So in the Puranas, an interesting concept is proposed, one that attempts to reconcile the kind of monotheistic strand of Hindu thought with the polytheistic strand of Hindu thought. And this concept is known as the Trimurti, which is the Hindu theological concept that there is one God, but that this God has 3 major aspects or manifestations. And the Trimurti is often referred to as the Hindu Trinity. And the Trimurti basically states that there is one God, Brahman, but this God manifests itself in 3 major forms, each form executing a particular purpose in the world. So what are the names of these 3 manifestations, and what is the purpose of each? So here we have it. So according to the Trimurti theology, there is one God, Brahman, and this Brahman has 3 major natures or manifestations. Brahma, which is the creative aspect, Vishnu, which is the preservative aspect, and Shiva, or the destructive aspect. Now, to make things more interesting, each of the 3 manifestations has a female pair or consort, and the male and female pairs often give rise to other manifestations through procreating. So as we learned earlier, Brahma has a consort Saraswati, Vishnu has a consort Lakshmi, and Shiva has Kali or Parvati. And with Parvati, Shiva has the god, or has a child god, Ganesha. So in other words, there's one god, Brahman, who has 3 major aspects or natures, but also has many different sub-aspects, right? So we have like a male-female pair, and then they even have children. Indeed, there is a saying that in Hinduism, there is the belief in one God with 300 million different personalities. So with this in mind, just kind of keeping in mind what we learn about the Hindu tradition, the concept of Trimurti, how do we classify Hindu theology? That is, in the case of the Trimurti, does this concept count as monotheism? Or is this just back toward polytheism? And just more generally, again, what is Hinduism? Is it polytheistic, monotheistic, all of the above, none of the above, other? Right, what are we talking about? Well, this I shall leave up to you, and I've even included an extra credit form for you if you want to talk about it.